In this week's episode, I'm talking to Shawn Chue from the Korn Ferry, New Zealand, about how he got into sourcing, how he uses Agile in his daily work, and how to source in Australia and New Zealand. Welcome to episode 24 of the Sourcing Challenge Show. I'm your host, Mark Lundgren. I start off by asking Shawn how he got into sourcing.
So for myself, recruitment, I've been in it for coming about 4 or 5 years by now.
Sure.
the timeline's blurry by now.
Yeah.
But no, like everyone else, I sort of fell into it. When I graduated from university, I got an opportunity to take a secondment with my part-time job at the time, covering my manager, and part of the role was to recruit a couple of new staff members, and that was completely new to me, and I really enjoyed that, and realized that this is actually something I could look at doing as a career. At the time, options were a bit open, so I tried. At the time, I think recruiters must have been a dime a dozen, because nobody wanted to take me on. Nobody was, there was no, internship programs or anything like that at the time for some reason. So I thought, okay, I'll try it one more time. I cold called and emailed every big recruitment agency I could Google up in my area in Auckland, and had one interview, and the lady was like, you're not really quite cut out, but hey, she placed me in a customer service job, so I thought, okay, that's fine. I left it, I guess I went to customer service, went to sales for a couple of years, and I was talking to another friend, and he had gone from sales into recruitment. He joined Hayes, and got to talking when he was, when I was congratulating for his new job, and and he knew that I tried as well. He said, just give it another go. The market's quite different now. So I did. Got into Hudson. Did a couple of years at Hudson. So accounting and finance, temp desk, then perm desk. And then decided to transition to something a little bit more in-house. So I've been in our RPO model with Korn Ferry since.
So you're more on the kind of sourcing side as well, and focusing on finding, or?
Yeah, that's right. So the model that we've got here is, we've got sourcing in the background, and then we've got business partners on site who, do the client facing, and so essentially it's working in conjunction across the two teams to deliver to the clients.
Tell me a bit of how you work. Like, what's the kind of tools that you use, and what's the?
Yeah, sure. So basically, whenever a new requisition is signed off by the client, it gets filtered on to us, and it's assigned to one sourcer and a business partner. So we work in conjunction. We'll set up a time for a briefing with the hiring manager. So business partner and sourcer are both involved. We take the brief, and then then the sourcer obviously takes the front end of the process. So we'll put up the advertising. We'll run any social media campaigns if need be. And the main sort of tools that we use, aside from standard advertising, would be the likes of LinkedIn Recruiter, or standard old Boolean searches on Google, which.
Not to be underestimated, definitely.
Yeah. They're the biggest search engine for a reason. So, aside from the more interesting search results you get, it can actually be pretty effective if you use the right strings. And then we would reach out to people proactively, start getting them engaged, to see who's in the market, and see who's potentially open to a conversation even, and then at close to the 2 week sort of mark, we would have ideally a small shortlist put together, phone screen CVs, and we'll present that back to the hiring manager, once again with the business partner involved as well. And from there, we'd ideally get the feedback right at the time, or would be looped into the feedback later on. And from interview point onwards, that's when the business partner works more closely with the hiring manager, getting involved with interviews, making sure we're getting the feedback and making sure that they're managing that end of the process. And from that point, we're kind of just kept in the loop with the feedback. Just if there's any rework that needs to be done, or if we need to, if a candidate falls off or whatever. But otherwise, generally from that point, we start to put focus on new roles or new requisitions that are in pipeline.
And how's like you working with Agile as well? Like, what's the kind of points that you've changed for you? Like, what's the where have you sped up and made your process easier?
Yeah, I think for me, the changes I've made would be giving more feedback sooner. So whether it's running more profiles past my colleagues, or sharing profiles straight with the hiring manager, as a bit of a benchmark, just going, hey, what do you think? So are we on the right track, rather than waiting right till the end and then realizing, your whole shortlist is completely wrong, sort of thing. We've all been there. So feedback was one thing. The other thing was also, I guess, just kind of just breaking up my focus, so I think that's really what Trello's helped me do, and the sprints as well, is just realizing, okay, I know that I've got some roles that are in the pipeline, but they're not due to kick off for another 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm just going to, until I hear, I'm just going to completely ignore them. But what do I need to deliver this week? What do I need to deliver next week? That's my whole universe at the moment. That's what I'm going to push and deliver, and then I can look at the stuff down the line. So I think that's certainly helped my sort of mental state. Rather than looking at your dash and going, oh man, I've got 40 or 50 requisitions. Look at, okay, these are my top 10 or 12 that I really need to put work in immediately, and kind of knuckling down on those. Otherwise, it's also I think for me personally, I'm quite a procedural, quite a process-driven type person, which has been great. But in recruitment and speed, in which we operate now as well, I think that has started to become a bit of hindrance. So just making myself more aware and kind of going, okay, am I getting stuck in a rut here? Am I following potentially process for process sake, or is there any way I can basically just stay on my toes a little bit more and have a bit of that more agile mindset, and kind of going, what if something came out of left field today or tomorrow? How would I react? Would I would I just completely fall apart, or would I just be able to go, okay, all right, this is what we're doing now? So it's sort of constantly reminding myself now, it's just don't get too comfortable, just sort of and constantly keep looking at processes, looking at what I'm doing, and going, is this am I delivering the most value? Am I doing what I should be doing? Or if not, why am I not just dumping it and on something else? Something I've been curious about as well is, with an agile sourcing team, how do you find that? I guess the transition initially, because there's kind of that running joke, right? Recruiters are most notorious sort of control freaks. They like to run the whole process, and agile's kind of letting go of that and working in conjunction more with other people. But how does that kind of work with you guys?
We got an agile coach as like one of our business analysts in the business to help us map out the process. So we really took like, what are your bottlenecks? What's your frustrations? How can we fix that? And what's the pieces of agile that we can put in to actually help with that? So a lot of it was around, as a team, kind of saying, this is frustrating, that's frustrating. And that's things like, we don't get feedback. We're working on something for a month or 2 months, and then they change requirements and it's all for nothing, or they fill it internally, or things like that. It's like, how can we speed up the process? So a lot of it for us is about breaking the process down for what we do to the smallest thing. So our sprint is week 1 is candidate identification. So we took and said for all roles, roughly it's 100 people that we need to identify to get a hire. So let's do that in the first week. When we kick off a thing, we say to the people, we want your feedback on the first 20, and then we want your feedback on the whole list of 100. So the first 20, it's easy with LinkedIn Recruiter, just share the project and saying, these are the first 20, can you give me feedback? But even if it's not that, just send them a list of like, these are the people in their profile. Are they on for what we talked about that you're looking for? And then scale that to 100 and say, look through these people. If we get these people to talk to us, will you have a phone screen with them? And that, so really say like the list of 100 that we start working on are people that if we get them to want to talk to us, you will talk to them. And that's whether that's recruiter or directly to a hiring manager. And they understood that, because that means within the first week, we get the feedback. And if we're off, we know straight away. The first 20, we know, okay, that was completely off. But also when we have a list of 100 and we start emailing, whatever we have to do to get to talk to them, we know that if we put the calendar link of whoever the recruiter is or the manager is that has to do the phone screen, we know that phone screen is going to, you're not going to have like, I don't really want to talk to them. You're going to have less of that ownership from the recruiter, like, I didn't source these people. So we get that in the week 1. And then week 2 is all about outreach. Week 3 is about following up and doing phone screens if we're doing the phone screens. And week 4 is about finishing that off and reporting. So kind of seeing, okay, what's our response rates been? What's the quality been? And that thing. So we like, okay, what we do can be boiled down to 3 or 4 weeks. If we just do a long list generation where like these are the people and give it to a recruiter, that doesn't take more than a week. And what's, are you predominantly doing New Zealand and Australia, or is it a bit all over the region in terms of the roles that you're kind of looking for people for?
Yeah, so I'd say primarily Australia. That's just where the client's based. But on occasion we do support colleagues who recruit locally as well. But primarily Australian based. So mainly the big cities, Sydney, Melbourne, and then depending on the satellite offices, could be likes of Canberra, Brisbane, and stuff like that.
So what's the kind of, is there any big difference from recruiting in Australia and recruiting in New Zealand, other than size? And
not really. I've found. I think culturally we're quite close. So I guess you're looking at sort of North America versus in North America. America, Canada. There are some cultural similarities there. So I think it's the same comparison. The key differences would be New Zealand in general is a much smaller scale than Australia. So, from a candidate's perspective, what their drivers are slightly different. They're more, I found that the candidates there are a little bit more commercially focused, and they're more likely perhaps to chase the bigger salary packages, because that's what's available to them. Whereas here, definitely, we are ramping up, but definitely not on that scale just yet.
What's something interesting that you're working on that you find interesting in either in the industry or in the role?
Let's see. I think recently CX has come up a lot, which is sort of popped up so it's sort of more or less overnight. So it's been sort of just doing that deep dive into what is CX, how does it fit in, but more and more talking to different people, colleagues and people in my network, it's definitely a big focus for different industries, and I think that signals a really good change, I think, from the wider company's perspective, looking really more at being more customer centric, and from recruiting those roles, it's not a cut and dry type profile. We've had CX candidates come from, they used to be furniture designers in their spare time and stuff like that. Yeah. So, when we're looking at CVs, we're going, no way. And then the hiring managers go, oh no, I think that thinking and that design thinking would lend itself to this role, and then that's how you kind of develop a better idea of what a CX candidate looks like. But I think as a role, as a space at the moment, it's definitely doing some pretty cool stuff.
It's always interesting as well for me to kind of see, especially with like in New Zealand and Australia, because like lots of companies have that we have to recruit in New Zealand, and then like, where to start? Like, where do we, we're just going to do it like we've done all over the place. And it's like, as you said, you need to kind of know what's the slight differences. It's like, okay, are we just going to offer them what they have, or what do we need to what's our story need to be attractive for that? So I always think it's interesting to really get in and kind of like, what do I need to do differently when trying to attract people for roles in New Zealand, or, for even like attracting Kiwis to go to other countries and to get to work for. Yeah.
So I was talking to somebody recently who's been doing some recruitment in Japan, and apparently, culturally that makes it so challenging because people just generally don't like to move. It's more, and somehow the local agencies have the inside track, because they know the candidates, they know the culture, and coming in as an outsider, that's the challenge.
Yeah.
And kind of mentally, I was sort of playing with that idea in my mind of just, if I was to recruit a role in Japan, how would I kind of tackle that? Just
Absolutely. Well, look, thank you very much for having time for me. I'm very I love that. I love your article about kind of looking at Agile, and I'm hoping that one day you can get your whole team on board on it. If people want to catch up with you, where can they best find you, Shawn?
Probably either send me a connection on LinkedIn. I've got contact details on my LinkedIn profile as well. So feel free to reach out. Always happy to have a chat. To me, it's a constant learning journey.
Thanks for your time.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Right, cheers. Bye.